Welcome back. I am Chris Garside again. I'm the author of God's Chemistry for Life, and we're going to look at chapter three, the other evidence of design that is in here with is packed full of a lot of really cool stuff that shows us that science is telling the scripture is true. Now, the where I have this, I've got basically there's a lot of evidence to look at to see how this universe um, had to have a designer. Evidence here is divided up into three basic branches of science and the scripture of the Bible. I'm going to go over the biology, chemistry, and physics. We've already gone over some of the physics last chapter, but it's worth going over again because those are some pretty tough concepts. And then we're going to look at the Bible. So let's look at the evidence in biology. Biology has plenty of evidence from how ecosystems are set up to irreducible complexity, the parts of cells and how they communicate, and the order of creation of the creation story also matches how science says life formed. They line up just right. Um, so let's look at the ecology first. One basic principle in ecology is the 10% rule. See that number 10? God's number for completeness, 10, just happens to be how much energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next to completely provide for each ecosystem. Also, in each of those ecosystems, um, we can see individuals that are already adapted to new environments if the environment ever changes and before those environments ever change. I think that's interesting. Next, huge argument, irreducible complexity. Um, what this basically says is there is no way the first cell evolved out of randomness. The cell requires the need of DNA, mRNA, tRNA, rRNA, all these things just to build one protein. Cells cannot function without these parts being complete, and science has no evidence whatsoever that there is an evolution of DNA, RNA, mRNA, tRNA, or RNA. And you need all four of these things to make life. All living things have all four parts of these to be able to build proteins. And then when we get into the cell, these things don't even code for a whole lot of stuff that goes on in the cell. So what's coding for that? Um, there is no way to even put one protein together, let alone hundreds of different types to build one cell. So let's look at the chances of a protein coming together randomly. That's actually useful. A protein with 100 amino acids would take about 1.5 times 10 to the 70th power years to build randomly. Okay, that's a very small protein, an extremely small protein. Most proteins are 500, maybe 1,000, sometimes a couple thousand amino acids long. Let's see what happens if we add 50 more. A, a, a protein with 150 amino acids would have 1 times 10 to the 164th power chance of happening randomly. This is huge. Let's put this into perspective. There are 1 times 10 to the 80th power particles in the universe. The universe is 1 times 10 to the 16th power seconds old. So let's look back here. 1 times 10 to 164th power is way bigger. And this is exponential, guys. This tells me there is no way, no how, a chance of having randomness enter into life at all. Okay, now let's look at the cell. There is so much energy happening in the cell, so much, not energy, so much stuff happening inside the cell that cannot be explained in biology. The more we study it, the more we find out we do not know what's going on here. Some of your biggest Christians or believers are cellular biologists. There's a lot we know, but how the cell is able to know how to know when to do things, um, and it does this almost instantly without any communication. And I would really encourage you to go see the Harvard Cell video on YouTube. Look it up and watch it a few times. See what's going on there. Some of these things just look super crazy on how things are actually happening inside of the cell. We're not going to look at that here today because it creates too much time. The protein laminin puts together these cells. When you have cells, multicellular organisms, there is a structure called laminin, a protein structure that holds multicellular organisms built together. And if you look on here, you can see it is shaped like a cross. It is the glue that holds us together. God's signature through Christ put on all multicellular life of creation. I find that extremely interesting. And now let's look at the fact that the creation story in the Bible has the same order from the creation of space and time to the order of how life formed on earth according to science, ending with the formation of man. They tell the same story just from a different perspective. Both science and scripture tell the same story, but from different perspectives. And we're going to look at both of those stories in the next chapter. So that's evidence in biology. Now let's look at the evidence in chemistry. It comes from evidence in chemistry comes from how the atom is structured to the organization of the elements in the periodic table. Then if you look at the chemistry of life and play with the numbers, we might be seeing God's signature everywhere. So there's lots of places we can see God's signature in life. So let's first look at the elements in the periodic table. The fact that all the elements of the universe can be put into a table for everyone to be able to understand and see an orderly arrangement shows organization. There's also 7 diatomic molecules. Every chemistry teacher knows this. 7 diatomic molecules making the number 7 on the periodic table. Hydrogen, the one that makes all the other elements, is separated above the rest in the 7. That means there's 6 that are below that help make up the number 7, but all make the number 7. Also, all life contains carbon. It has 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 666. You tell me what you think that means. And also in all life, to build the proteins that we need to have nitrogen. Most of them have 7 protons, 7 electrons, and 7 neutrons, 777. Now, we looked at the atom before, but there's one stat that I didn't give you last time. The Pixar universe is an illusion. Okay, we saw that. But that means, here's look at this. 99.99999999999% of the atom is empty space. An electron spins around the atom so fast, making it look as if the whole thing is a solid ball, and when in reality, it's empty space. If an atom is an illusion, that means the whole universe is an illusion. If the pixel of our universe is an illusion, then the whole universe is. So what is ultimate reality? Let's look at some numbers here. If we look at some numbers in chemistry, carbon, it says in all living things, 666, nitrogen, 777. We've already seen that. But look at photosynthesis and respiration. This is what drives how organisms stay alive. Photosynthesis gives us oxygen. It makes food for us, the original food for us from the sunlight. And respiration, all living things have to go through respiration. And aerobic respiration, when you put these things together, the coefficients for the reduced formulas are 666. Again, read into it what you will. Water is responsible for all life and has 3 atoms. Also, if you add the atomic numbers together, you get 10 atomic mass units. Life-giving water. Who gives life? 3 types of RNA are also responsible for all life. And then we have the 11 dimensions of our universe, 4 large and 7 small. The significance of those numbers. 3 is God's number for the Holy Trinity. 4 is the number for the earth. These are all biblical. You can look these up in your book and your appendix in your book and your Bible and see that these are what these numbers mean. 6 is the number for incompleteness. Remember the mark of the beast down below is 666. 7 is God's connection to man and completeness, adding the Holy Trinity 3 plus the number to the earth 4. This connects him to man. Then 10 is also God's power and completeness. And then 12 are the 12 tribes of Israel and or the 12 disciples. Going back, seeing how that makes a significance in these numbers that are in chemistry. Now let's go and look at the physics. Okay, evidence of physics. We saw this in the last chapter. There are many types of physics. We experience Newtonian physics, and all of Newton's laws are found in relativity. Relativity only works in time and space. When you get outside of time and space, it breaks down. Quantum physics then works outside of time and space, and these two do not work well with each other. So string theory is an attempt to put relativity and quantum physics together mathematically. These also show the qualities only God possesses, his omnipotence, his omniscience, his omnipresence. So again, review relativity. The theory of relativity explains everything in time and space of the universe and can be written in a simple formula, E equals mc squared. The second law of thermodynamics is one of the three laws of thermodynamics which we can see in relativity. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy, randomness, increases in the universe as time moves on. Only intelligence can organize things. Life breaks that law if there is no God. Life gets more organized as time goes on. Only intelligence can organize things. So here the physics of our universe is telling us there has to be some intelligence giving us life, because life breaks that second law of thermodynamics. The block universe. Remember the block universe? It came from Einstein's theory of relativity, and states that when the universe started, all things that would ever exist in this universe would equally exist right then. This is how God sees time, all things at once. This allows Jesus to exist as God, as the God-man, before he was even born. This shows us that the block universe, all things exist. So to God, they have already happened and are happening at the same time. This would be a record of all things that only God could see. Possibly could this be what the seven scrolls are talking about, or the book of life? This shows a record of all knowledge. God is omniscient. And then lastly, wormholes. These are passageways through time and space. They came from Einstein's theory of relativity. This could allow God to perform his miracles without breaking any laws of physics. They're already built into the creation, and so God can insert himself into creation anywhere he wants, when he wants. And so those wormholes would show us a way that God could bring anything in and out of this universe to transport them through this universe, or anything. They require lots of power, however, that we will never be able to have. So this shows God is omnipotent. Just to open up one big enough for a person to go through require the energy of thousands of stars, or thousands of our suns. This would be no problem for the one who is the source of all energy of the universe. And lastly, string theory. Next to string theory. String theory is a way for scientists to mathematically connect relativity, quantum physics. They're attempting to do this by replacing particles with strings or waves. This is an attempt to find a theory of everything, and this has brought about some unexpected results. Again, we talked about the holographic principle, where the principle says that all of the 2D objects in this universe are connected to 4D objects, or you say 4D is connected to 2D, that is on their event horizon. They are connected by strings, and these strings account for dark matter as well as dark energy. And we're going to have to talk about that in the next video, more in the next video. Thanks for joining me.